But the first thing I want to go through is stance for kickboxing. Not so much for boxing. We have amazing boxing coaches within the Trifecta community, Coach Gardier being number one. And I know that he often goes through the stance for boxing, both orthodox and southpaw. So I want to make a small adjustment and go through your stance for kickboxing. So, right-handed, we're orthodox, which means right hand is back, right leg is back, left is in front, left is in front. Okay, southpaw, which means you're left-handed or left-hand dominant. Left hand is back, left leg is back, right front, right front. I'm right-handed, I'm going to stand orthodox for this tutorial. Feel free to adjust as necessary. So when we're going through our boxing stance, it tends to be a little longer, all right? When we're boxing, we don't necessarily need to worry, well, no, we don't need to worry about leg kicks. We don't need to worry about being able to check, being able to throw, being able to kick, knee, any of these movements. All of our stance adjustments we use our footwork for it, right? So my boxing stance is primarily to give me optimal footwork for boxing without having to worry about throwing leg strikes or defending against leg strikes. Now when we're kickboxing, obviously we have to be able to check. We have to be able to check. I have to be able to use my legs offensively and defensively, okay? You'll notice I use mostly my left leg. That's because I like to sit on my back leg a little bit more for my kickboxing stance. So now when I'm finding my stance for kickboxing, I want to make sure my feet are kind of just outside the width of my hips, just outside the width of my shoulders. What this allows me to do is when I need to make the weight shifts in order to either defend or be offensive with my lead leg, I don't need to either bring my foot up if I was in the boxing stance or come all the way back to be able to use this leg. So by staying a little more upright, a little more balanced, a little more narrow, it allows me to just sit back on this heel for either defense, for offense, for all of these movements. Same thing if I'm going to use my back leg. All I'm doing is just shifting my weight slightly forward to check, to kick, to knee, all of our defensive and offensive movements. So that's the biggest difference between kickboxing stance and boxing stance. It's just the width and why we need to have the certain width for each discipline. Remember, boxing, you don't need to worry about leg strikes. It's more about footwork, about staying balanced, about having a good base. With kickboxing, we have to have the good base for our hands, but we also need to be able to be defensively and offensively sound with our legs. So, recap, kickboxing stance, we're gonna stand a little narrower, just outside the hips, just outside the shoulders. I don't wanna have to do big weight adjustments to be able to pick up either leg. I want to be able to sit here the whole time and just pick it up, right? Just pick it up. You should be able to just take little steps. Once you start doing my classes through the Trifecta app, you'll notice I'm always talking about rhythm with your footwork. And you'll see, every time when I'm not throwing, I'm just doing little footwork, right? This allows me to be offensive and defensive without having to make big weight shifts. So that's our tutorial.